Heart and Talent Radio.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jeffery Combs, President and Founder, Golden Mastermind Seminars Incorporated. The first Tuesday of June, 2019. How many of you on Facebook go back on the button on memories and you go back and watch some of your posts? You can look at the post you wrote 5 years ago. So that's such a cool feature that Facebook stores all that. If you're brand new to today's Facebook Live or someone referred you, my name is Jeffery Combs. I've been a speaker, writer, author, success coach for 22 years. I'll be experiencing my 22nd year this August of being a coach. Prior to that, I was a network marketer, a wannabe real estate investor, a challenging, overwhelmed entrepreneur early in my career of drug and alcohol recovery, and really began to hit my stride in my mid-late 30s. So I got clean and sober when I was 31 years old, had already been an entrepreneur for most of my adult life, and had had flashes of brilliance and pieces of success, but never anything real consistent. The topic of my call today is starting and finishing. A large percent of society are great at starting. An equally large percent of society has challenges with commitment, finishing, and completion. So today's call is dedicated to that very topic. So I'm here in the GMS office. Just in case you wondered what was behind here, this is a cedar closet that my very good friend Sean Crum built for me many, many years ago. So we're experiencing a few technical difficulties as we're weeding through the process. So here we are today. Now, as I said, my topic is starting and finishing. One of the first situations that I suggest you learn to finish is making your bed. And this is a place that many people avoid because it would represent not being rebellious. Unfortunately, a large percent of society is not skilled at being disciplined. And if you're not disciplined, then it means that you're going to chronically avoid. And if you're a chronic avoider, that means you'll also be a winger. I like to ask my clients, do you have a desk? And I often get this answer, I like to work on my bed. I like to spread everything out on my kitchen table. That's great, but do you really have a dedicated place to produce results from? So today already, you don't have to figure this out yourself, but I've already coached 7 hours one-on-one. That will give you a timeline of what time I started if it's 1 o'clock today and I've already coached 7 hours. Now, I coach today and then I will finish my coaching later this evening, and I do a lot of back-to-back one-on-one coaching. I've been doing this for many, many years. It's a discipline, it's a habit, it's a model, it's a system, it's a method, and it is a routine. I am a very disciplined person. That is an affirmation. Now, unfortunately, a large percent of society is undisciplined, overwhelmed, and perpetuates the same set of feelings, creating the same outcome. And if you don't live in routines, then there's a high probability that you wing it. And unfortunately, winging it will not allow you to reach the land of promise. I asked one of my clients recently who was getting another certification on top of the certifications that they are certified in. And I asked them, do you ever create any money? Well, that's unfortunately what many people do. So not finishing is connected to also avoiding. Avoiding is procrastination. The Latin term for procrastination is procrastinare, to avoid. Now, here are some of the topics for today's call. I write these topics out and then I email them out to you. And so I have an outline for the call. I don't write the whole call out, but I have an outline that I cover, and I do my outline for about 6 weeks in a row. So I'll know what my next 5 calls are back to back going into July. So today, the topics of the kind is making your bed early, rebelling against self, over-obligating and overcommitting, codependence, cause and effect, letting go, and then being a committed committer. Now, if you're not committed at committing, then there's a high probability you will avoid. Now, to be able to start to change the way you've been changing, or to let go, separate your feelings from the events that shape them, it's important that you start to have a method, a system, a routine that you're comfortable following. not a routine that someone else gives you, not a routine that someone forces you to, and not a routine that you force yourself. It means you comply with yourself. You, as self, I am me, I am free. Well, that's great that you seek freedom, but you also require simple routines and simple systems to be able to create the outcome that you seek. And if you have challenges following through on that, then you're going to have challenges creating the results that you require to be and stay an entrepreneur. So here we go. We're going to move right into the inspirational portion of today's call. Making your bed early. So instead, to make your bed early is, here's how a lot of people look at it, like this. They grind their teeth. They get overwhelmed. They look at their bed and they go, what's the use? I'll do it later. And instead of doing it now is a habit. Many people avoid and they put situations off. And then what they avoid compounds. And that compounded effect that you create over and over creates a neurochemical high based on anxiety, fear, and doubt, based on a series of events that shape your feelings. And for you to separate your feelings from the events that shape them, that's what letting go means. Why do people have challenging avoiding? Well, the reason is because it would contradict your averageness, would contradict being able to hold on to a set of feelings. And most importantly, letting go would put you in a position that you would be responsible. And this is one of the number one reasons that people avoid finishing, because they're not sure if they can control the outcome. Addict talk. Addicts say, well, I'm not sure if I can be sober tomorrow. I'm not sure if I can succeed tomorrow. I'm not sure if I can pull it off tomorrow. And that's what many people do, is they put off today what they're going to do tomorrow. And this is also will show up in how people create decisions and commitments. Yesterday I prospected. I had 9 20-minute coaching calls with prospective prospects. No one bought from me. It wasn't that I wasn't a good salesman or a closer, but I encountered a series of objections that were very familiar, that I've heard many, many times. And these objections were future tense objections. I'm going to, I'd like to, I'll get back with you. I'm sure, I want you to understand all this. This is how many people chronically avoid. And if you're a chronic avoider, then you're going to continue to create the same situation over and over to fulfill the feelings that keep you emotionally addicted, recreating the same situation, ending up in disappointment. Now, if you're not skilled at this process, then you'll rebel against yourself. Meaning, if you can't find someone to reject you, then you'll reject yourself. And unfortunately, that's what many people keep recreating. Let's take a deep breath. Take a deep breath and release. And as you begin to release, then you don't get distracted. And if you get distracted by outside influences, then you can't be and stay focused. I'm no longer the mind-body connection to the events that shape the feelings. That's what letting go is. But being a finisher is being someone who is committed. So that requires a certain level of pride, dignity, not control, but commitment. You can't substitute words for commitment and decide. Need to is not committing. Need to is not deciding. A lot of future tense words are not committed. This is why so many people say the word guess mid-sentence. I guess. Also finishing sentences by I don't know, which keeps you chronically avoiding committing. Committing is a commitment. Now, what does committing really mean? It means follow through. It means finishing the task at hand. I'm a very good starter. Now, what that often means to people, they have shiny object syndrome. The body creates a neurochemical high from the potential of something new. That's what leads to affairs and marriages and situations like this. A marriage becomes stagnant. A business becomes stagnant. What I better do is start a new business. What I better do is have a new affair. What I better do is start a new company, because an addict always wants a little more, rather than buckling down and really looking and say, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a better understanding of why I do what I do. I'm going to focus on the skill set that will allow me to break through the conditioned behavior that I'm in, and I'm going to commit to success today. No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a big lunch, and then later I'm going to work out, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to prospect in the evening, and then I'm going to do it all over again tomorrow. However, what happens is most of society gets so overwhelmed, so excited that they can't get around to the simple discipline required to be and stay productive. Production oftentimes is not sexy, at least to the brain. However, it's production that creates the result. Without consistent action, the repetition and experience over and over that creates the neurochemical response that creates consistency. Consistency is attached to inspiration. There's attached inspiration. But being a starter is attached to excitement. Starting is exciting. Finishing, being able to get to the finish line requires the process. This is why many people, when it comes to a movie, just tell me the end. This is why people call a psychic. Am I going to be okay? Am I going to be okay? Am I going to be okay? Is it going to come out okay? Is it going to come out right? I say, you know the answer, but oftentimes you want outside validation. And this is why you want to know the end. Just tell me I'm going to succeed. If you just tell me to succeed, then I don't have to go through all this process. If you just tell me how to let go, then I don't have to understand it. So this is what people want. Instant gratification. This is why making your bed in the morning is a good habit, because it establishes a routine. Now, your life isn't going to automatically change if you make your bed, but your life's going to start to have more discipline if you start the first action in the morning and you complete it. If you exercise early in the morning and you complete it at a set time. My alarm clock went off at 4 o'clock this morning. I was in my gym at 4:22 today. I was in my steam shower at 4:15, and I was coaching a client at a set time. I mean, that is a routine. I've done the same thing over and over for going on 22 years. Now, I'm not suggesting you do what I do. I'm suggesting you develop your own routine. You have dedicated blocks of time. You're comfortable in those dedicated blocks of time. That would be family time, production time, spiritual time, exercise time, devotional time, whatever it is, whatever the time is that you start to operate on a routine that you're comfortable in. But if you consider that to be rigid, difficult, confining, if that's how your brain sees it, then what that means is your body is attached to a previous event and you don't want to be controlled. That's what your brain's telling yourself. Well, that isn't control, that's discipline. And discipline has more than one meaning. I'm a disciple of, or I'm going to discipline you. And those two situations are two different perspectives. Now, as you move into a state of consciousness, which is awareness, understanding, knowing, and most importantly, letting go. And once you understand letting go, then you're always letting go. It's just like always overwhelmed. Would you rather be always overwhelmed or always letting go? Well, who taught you how to be overwhelmed? Well, you got overwhelmed by a series of events that aren't your fault, but you became neurochemically addicted to these feelings, and your body starts running your brain. You start flexing and flinching, and so I'm always overwhelmed. Being overwhelmed is a lot of responsibility is put on you. Being overwhelmed means you're in unpredictable situations. You shouldn't be in the situation, but you're a kid and you have to adapt and adjust and react. Your body starts reacting to the stimulus, and that reaction to the stimulus becomes part of your emotional code. And those emotions are anger, hate, resentment, guilt, and shame, abandonment, rejection. Now, those four emotions, abandonment, rejection, guilt, and shame, are four very, very important emotions that you begin to understand. And the more you understand the cause that creates the effect of why you do what you do, that's the separation process. I assisted a woman last night who wrote a post in sobriety consciousness. Now, if you're watching this content, you're not in sobriety consciousness. One of my clients wrote about injuries that she consistently occur. And I asked her, how many times have these injuries happened to her? She told me the time, and I started to break down the timeline for her. Now, what many people do is they don't remember. They don't remember the timeline, the chronology. They don't remember their childhood because they were overwhelmed. They were so overwhelmed, but being overwhelmed becomes an identity. And this is what happens to people who have challenges finishing. They over-obligate. They take on more than they can possibly handle. They have children. They have a business. They have a job. They have a husband. They have 2 or 3 dogs. They take on civic duties, volunteer. They do multiple situations that keep them overwhelmed. And then it becomes very challenging to manage the moving parts of life and the moving parts of success. Now, multitasking is a skill, but if you're always putting out fires or always out producing your problems, and this becomes an always situation that you become addicted to. What is the answer? Well, the answer is to understand why you do what you do. Start to create a day and a routine that you're comfortable in. It's your responsibility to be and stay. Anyone can get, so you can get organized, but it's going to be your responsibility to be and stay organized. And if you have challenges being and staying, then you'll just be a chronic relapser, and you'll have challenges finishing. There's a correlation between not finishing the day in aspiration, inspiration, and consciousness, and finishing the day overwhelmed. That's what happens to many people. Oh, I'm so exhausted. When you edify that kind of feeling, then what you do is you recreate it over and over. If you go to bed exhausted, you will wake up overwhelmed. And that's what happens to so many people, because the body does not rest. Your rest time is a state in the brain where you want to be able to shut it off. But if you tell yourself, I can't shut my brain off, I can't stop these thoughts, my brain always races, this means you chronically edify the very situation you seek to avoid, which makes it virtually challenging to be able to separate your feelings from the events that you're emotionally addicted to. This is not hard. This is new. And the more you understand that you're changing a conditioned behavior, and this is why if you have weight challenges and you've held on to weight for a long time and you're attempting to move into the state, well, you have to factor how long you've been addicted to a set of feelings that hold the weight, how long you've been addicted to a set of feelings where you want something to take that edge off, and then who is the person in your life that introduced you to being a confidant with them when it comes to food. It's oftentimes a mother, a grandmother, family outings, family excursions, family get-togethers. A lot of your food addictions will come from that, then the guilt of not cleaning your plate, starving children in this country, and then all this association with food, guilt, shame, being overwhelmed. Unfortunately, this happens to many, many good people. Then they perpetuate these circumstances throughout their entire life, recreating the same situation to fulfill the same feeling. An addict always wants a little more drama, a little more chaos, a little more overwhelmed until the bow is about to break. This is when your body goes into inflammation. An inflamed family environment also creates the inflammation that resides in your body that you hold on to. Then that body holds on to what is called your emotional code. And it's a very emotional code that you continue to operate in. Now, if you want someone to assist you with this, this is my niche. This is my specialty. I break down chronological timelines. I break down the events that shape the feelings. I can assist you to have a better understanding of this event, this emotion, and how it plays out in your life today. I mean, there's a reason you don't make your bed. There's a reason you attract the same kind of people over and over to fulfill your feelings. There's a reason that you do what you do. And once you start to understand that reason, it's not about making sense, wrapping your brain around it. That's letting go. So letting go itself has no shape. It has no form, and it has very little definition. The interpretation of letting go is what's your responsibility to be able to interpret it, actualize it, implement it, and put into practice so that letting go becomes a skill. As letting go is a skill, then you can let go of being overwhelmed. One of the reasons that you won't finish projects is you're so overwhelmed. You take on so many duties and obligations. You have so many kids, and then you're a superstar mom and a superstar dad, and you got all these things going on. And there's no wonder that you require a triple bourbon at the end of a day, or a double scotch, or a double gin, or 2 or 3 glasses of wine at the end of the day, just to take the freaking edge off, that edgy edge of being overwhelmed. So as you begin to understand why you do what you do, then you're not the mind-body connection. Now, many of you say, oh, wow, I got that. I've seen many of your events on the East Coast. I've heard you say it on your podcast downloads. I've heard you say it on your CD sets, your cassettes. Yes, I used to have cassettes. I've heard you say it at events. I've seen it on your Facebook Live. No longer the mind-body connection to the events that shape the feelings. Now, what does that mean? It means that there are events in our life that create our sinus infections. There's events in our life that create asthma. There's events in our life that creates our eczema. There's events in our life that creates our irritable bowel syndrome. These events, the body holds on to them. That becomes the emotional code. As you have a better understanding how these events create that condition, It will also assist you to understand the food allergies that you have. You may have a food allergy, but it's not necessarily the food itself. You all of a sudden you eat chicken, your body breaks out. Well, it's not always the chicken. It's the time you had chicken when you're 8 years old in the inflamed family environment that creates the emotional code that when you have that chicken and something else triggers that, then your body responds to it. Your gut blows up. All of a sudden you have an irritable bowel syndrome situation. Your body's bloated. It breaks out an eczema or any multitude of situations because of the mind-body connection. And if you have that, if you keep telling yourself it's hay fever season, I'm coming down with something, well, instead of running to the doctor or the medical or the pharmaceutical counter or getting an antibiotic, look really quickly at your emotional code and have a better understanding of what's going on around you. Have a better understanding of who you're upset with, who's putting you in a position to validate, justify, and explain yourself, and correlate the event to past events that there's an association with. The brain takes a picture. The brain takes a picture of an event and gives it meaning. The meaning we give to situations are determined whether we hold on to it or whether we let go of it. When letting go is easy, you'll have a much higher probability of finishing task. If you don't have challenges letting go, then you talk yourself out of finishing and you'll create avoidance tendencies. When you become a chronic avoider, you'll continue to perpetuate the same situation over and over because actually there's a payoff you get in avoiding. By avoiding finishing, the payoff is you don't fail. That's number one. But you also don't succeed, so you fail by not succeeding. So it's a lose-lose proposition no matter how you look at it. The payoff you get by not finishing is you get a high by starting over. And by starting over, you get to ride that cardio cocktail that an addict likes to ride. It's the art of the start. And when you're no longer emotionally addicted to a set of feelings, then you live in a much more relaxed body in relaxed energy. You don't require that edgy edge, that high, that excited energy that you get from starting a project because you don't live on that you don't require that adrenaline to fulfill feelings that keep you in that edge. And as you begin to separate your feelings from the events, now you're living in a place called I know and I understand. Now, when you know, you're in trust. In dating circles, I've assisted many people in matchmaking situations like this. Oh, God, dating is so hard. There aren't any men out here. There aren't any women out here. I went on this app. I went on this dating site. Everyone's a flake. Everyone's a fruitcake. I can't believe it. There's all these serial cheaters. I mean, this is how people communicate. That means they can't start. They can't finish. In reality, matchmaking is very similar to attracting teammates, customers, and clients because it requires the same skill set. Being able to qualify people for your time, attracting to reality, like-minded soulmates, like-minded teammates, collaborators, vendors, customers, clients, people that you can develop service and value with. It's the same situation. And the more you understand that, then it becomes not only the art of the start, but the art of the completion. Finishing represents the end of an era. The ego doesn't like to do that oftentimes because the ego wants to stay excited. The ego wants to stay in uncertainty because that uncertainty that creates that neurochemical flexed flinched high that you get from not finishing a product. And someone who's a skilled finisher doesn't even look at it as finishing. It's a task well done. A skilled entrepreneur doesn't celebrate a victory because in self-esteem, esteem doesn't recognize victories or losses. Esteem is esteem, and esteem is love. Esteem is a very relaxed, conscious energy that perpetuates the same set of feelings over and over: joy, bliss, service, value, and being able to respond to the stimulus instead of react to it. A start is a reaction. Oh my God. Finishing is a much more relaxed process. You go to bed and there's no celebration required because it's task well done, duty performed admirably. There's no victory and there's no loss to it. And in the same energy, you don't look at wins and loses. So if someone doesn't buy from me one day, that doesn't mean that the next day that it won't happen, because in that relaxed body, in that relaxed state of consciousness, there's a repetition experience that happens over and over. So I see in the office for this, happy to be with you in this live, that's Eric Potato. Eric, thank you very much for being here. And I see a lot of exceptional. I see Afzal has joined us from England. And good to see you today. Who else do we have here? Levente, good to see you. I look forward to seeing many of you. Now this Saturday, I'll be in Saddlebrook, New Jersey. 1 year ago, Diane Hughes Hunt hosted that event. Now, Diane is going to be at this event. Diane is on her way to Utah. It's really a great opportunity for me to celebrate my time spent with her in New Jersey. It won't be the end of the era for Diane and I, but I will get to see Diane in New Jersey. So Diane, if you're watching this, thank you very much for hosting all the events you hosted for me in Saddlebrook in the last year and a half. So it's going to be an awesome situation. I'll be in Saddlebrook this Saturday. That is June 8th. On the 22nd of June, I will be in Chicago, Illinois at the Rosemont Hilton. On the 29th, I'll be in Seattle. Seattle for the first time in a long time. I'll be there at the very end of the month, so that will be fantastic. Moving into July, I'll be in Greenville, South Carolina. So that will be with Bridget Bartley. That'll be a fantastic situation. So looking forward to seeing many of you this summer, 2019. You have a great day. Oh, one other situation, if you have not had the opportunity to receive a free 20-minute coaching evaluation, you may contact me in any of my messenger inboxes, fan page, Instagram, any one of these situations, and I will respond to you very quickly. You have a great afternoon. Have a great day.